Okay, so this first one here, we have a trig graph, cosine 3x, asking which of the following list represents values of x for which g of x equals 0. So g of x obviously is y, and y is 0 obviously on the x-axis. So you see it definitely hits it a few times. When I say it, I mean the x-axis. Pi over 3 should know 60 degrees. You want to be able to be quick with, especially going to calculus. And you did pre-calculus last year? Yeah. So yeah, obviously you're should be fluid with that, like with radians or degrees. So my guess is that's probably 30 degrees then, 90, 150, and so forth. Wait, 120, that doesn't make any sense. Let me look at more time. Yeah, because 2 pi over 3 is going to be 120. So I don't know if I really agree with that. That's interesting. Yeah, graphically, I wonder if it's a typo. Because I want to say C. Yeah, I think it's a typo because that should be 150. Because all the other values make sense. Yeah, so it should be C. I think it's a typo because none of them work actually. If we were to take it for being a legit choices, but yeah, I'm guessing that was a typo. So anyway, we keep moving. So you just look at the graph. You don't even have to solve it. Algebraic graph is good enough for us. This is kind of basic SOHCAHTOA. I don't think they'll ask this on the SAT because you'd have to use a graphing calculator. And I've never seen them ask questions like this where you actually have to, because you can't do you need a calculator, obviously. You're screwed otherwise. But if you were trying to solve for AB, you're going to use the cosine. And then, yeah, you have to use a graphic calculator for that one. I mean, at the very least, you need a scientific calculator to do this problem. 10 cos 53, make sure you're in the right mode. Yeah, we get 6. So that's pretty easy. I mean, you do need to know the SOHCAHTOA rules. They do assess that, but they assess it differently. This one here. Oh boy, this is a sinusoid model. I don't know if you'll see this one either. Let's see here. They say it's supposed to involve 6 feet wide, 6 feet deep in an area where the water table is 40 feet below ground level. Assuming no inch circumference of volume. Oh, never mind. Okay, this is something else. I think this is a sinusoidal motion of modeling, but okay. Yeah, so if the well's 60 feet deep, this is kind of confusing, but here's the well. And the water table, and we'll say this is the ground. Of course, that's the well. That's 60, and the water table looks like this. So you're only interested in this part. So it's going to be a cylinder. They do give you the form for it, for a volume of cylinders pi r squared h. Because it's 6 feet wide, the radius is actually going to be 3, right? Yeah. And height's 20. Work could actually get 180 pi. And I think that's supposed to be a pi. So that's A. Yep. 4. If 780 is the diameter of the circle shown above and the length of the arc CD is N. What is the area of the shaded region? Okay, so that's going to be 6 and 6. Because these are the same. They're both radii. These are both 45 degrees. So it follows a 45, 45, 90 ratio. So therefore, that's also 6. And the length of arc CD is N. Oh, they meant pi. Yikes. They meant pi. Okay. We could probably figure out, um, we would need to know this angle first. So what would the circumference of the circle be? So it'd be 12 pi. Mm-hmm. And if that's pi, that's 30 degrees. So there we go, 30 degrees. So then that's 1/12, or you don't even need to do that. You know it's 1/12 of the circle. So you do 1/12 pi r squared to get the area after that. So a lot of it's just proportional reasoning. This is, I say, a good problem. Like, you could totally see something like this on the SAT. This should be squared, my bad. So you get 3 pi. And they do say they're approximate, so 3 times pi is around 10 nearest 10, so 9.4. So not done. Ooh, that's a good one. So they want you to figure out the length of chord DF. Well, chord DF gets cut in half when you have a situation like this here. So those are the same. And I'll call this like X and X for now, and theta. So I do need to know what theta is. Sine theta is X over 2. So X is 2 sine theta. I don't know actually if I need to do, no, I do need to do that. Yeah, because they're asking for the length of the chord, right? Um, and also, we kind of need to know what theta is, right? So the length of the chord is used as 2x, which now is going to be 4 sine theta. So I'm pretty much sure it's going to be either, yeah, if I had to guess, I'd probably say D, but it could be one of those wacky double angle. I don't think they would do that on the SAT, but just to be sure that we get the angle correct, it looks like they did it in radians. So the circumference is 4 pi. So if you want that in radians, you have to set up like this. Pi's cancel on each side. Theta will be 6.8 over 4. Does that make sense? Ooh. Crap, I got 1.7. Oh, wait one sec. But then you gotta split it, because I was only looking at this right here, not this whole thing. Yes, and if I divide by 2, that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if they would quite. I don't know. So the College Board can get a little creative sometimes, but yeah, I mean, maybe they might do it in radians. I mean, sorry, in degrees, perhaps. I don't know. Or maybe have that in terms of pi. But yeah, the proportional reasoning, we want to be solid with that, because this is back to geometry. So you can tell it's like a geometry trig problem set. We'll do a couple more, then I'll have you try some. Many cities try to work green spaces into their city plan because living plants help filter the city's air, reducing the effect of pollution, blah, blah, blah. If the width of each parking lot is the same as the width of the city hall building, how many thousand square feet of green space will be? Oh yeah, how's it going? Hey, we just got started. So we're working on. Do you have that ST math packet? Yeah. I don't know if we've done day 5 stuff. I'm doing like the last set. So let's see here. Hold on a sec. Let me read this again more carefully. How many thousand square feet of green space will be? Okay, so we need to calculate this area. That's what we need to do. Okay. And so I'm also recording this. So I'll share the recording with you guys. So 540 is this whole thing. And of course, that's 40 and 40. So you have 460 left. And they have City Hall as well, so hold on a sec. Um, hmm. Oh, the width of each parking lot is same as width of City Hall. Okay. So then this gets split three ways. So that's 180. So 460 is this whole thing. That'll be 280, I think. Is that right? Yeah. And they got to divide that by two, so you get 140. Yeah, you get 140, 140. And that's 430 for the height. So you got to do one half. You got two of those triangles. One half times the base times the height. Those cancel. And you totally have to use a calculator at this point. Yeah, so you get 60,200. Round to the nearest thousand. So that'd be 60. Yeah. So yeah, they could do that. That seems pretty reasonable. That was yeah, we had to read very carefully because it was um kind of got lost in all those words there. So okay. And then the last one before I have you guys do some practice problems. Okay, which one is not always true? So you're in the first quadrant. Do you do trig last year in pre-calculus? Or are you taking pre-calculus next year?
No, I took pre-calc, but we did some.
Okay. Are you familiar with the quadrants? Like it's 0 to 90 in the first quadrant. So cosine is always positive in the first quadrant. Actually, all the trig functions are always positive. So that's always true. So you want to pick one that's not true. Cosine negative x, which means to go over here. Cosine is positive in that quadrant also. There's actually a mnemonic. Some people say like, all students take calculus, or all sophomores take chemistry, or something like that, or all seniors take or something like that. So cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. And if you do negative x, that means you're putting that in the fourth quadrant. So that's always true. Um, oof, wow. If you do x plus 90, then you're going to be in the second quadrant, and that's definitely negative. So that's also true. This one's kind of debatable, right? Because what if x were 30 degrees? Then that would be positive, right? But what if x were like 50 degrees? Then you'd be in the second quadrant. Now it's negative. So that's not always true. Sometimes it is, sometimes not. So that's a little bit more of an advanced question. I could potentially see that on the ST also. Okay. And so you're at the right place. I'll show you. It's not that one. It's I haven't done the last. So now what we're going to do is this. Let me go ahead and clear. So we're going to work through these problems, and what we'll do is we'll kind of do this one at a time. So I'm going to what the heck, I'll keep the recording going. So we'll spend like a couple minutes per problem. Then after that, then we'll transition to some verbal stuff. So for number one, what you're going to want to realize is that area of a sector is theta degrees over 360 degrees times pi r squared. So we'll need to figure out what theta is and what r is from the diagram, and then work it out. Tell me what you guys got.
Wait, do we need a calculator for these sections?
You could do, actually, I think they would allow one. Sure.
And the formula say times pi.
R squared. Yep. So hopefully, obviously, theta is 60. And if you count it, the radius is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, I should get B. That one. Okay, let's keep moving. Okay. So stand right now. So stand right there. If the water levels will be 3 inches below the top, so that'll be 3. So you have to figure out what that's going to be. That should be 10, I believe. And for volume of a prism, it's going to be the area of the base times the height. So go and work that out. Tell me what you guys got. Hopefully you're doing 30 times 12, and then times 10. And that's the part you have to be very careful about because the sand right now, right? So you have to read carefully. So it should be 3,600, I think. And that's what you would grid in. You do 3600 and fill those bubbles for those digits. So okay, cool. Let's keep moving. Let's take a look at 3. If you want distance between these two chords, so let's put a center here because that's the diameter. So we want that. I'll call that X. They say that chord PQ is 3/4 of the diameter, so PQ is 3/4 MN. And the radius is R. So this is also going to be R, just so you know. It's also a radius. and they want x. This just knows me 3/4 are, because they did say, after all, that PQ is 3/4 of MN. So since I'm looking at half of MN and half of MQ, they're going to follow the same ratio. So you can do that. That's actually a fair thing to do. Another thing you can do too is you can also plug in numbers. If you so desire, you could have actually said the radius is 4, perhaps. So then MN's 8, so then PQ is 6, so therefore that's 3. So you could do that also. There's no harm in doing that. To it makes it far more manageable. So go ahead and solve for x using Pythagorean theorem, and tell me what you guys get when you solve for x. Hope we got root 7. Okay, cool. So and R is 4. So here we go. I think these are pi's, so it's got to be A. If you left in terms of R, you probably got the same thing, but I think it would have been a little more challenging to do it that way, perhaps, because you would have R and 3/4 R. So you do x squared plus, and then you got like, I don't know. I think A is just easier. I mean, sorry, plugging numbers is just easier. All right, let's try this one. X is also free response. Are all these? No. Okay, the rest are multiple choice. So let's say 7 feet and 6 inches is 7.5. And then the toy saver stuck at right angle to the ground 4 inches deep and cast shadow 4. So this is 4 feet 4 feet long. This right here. This we don't know. I'll call it X. And this I don't know. I'm gonna call that Y. Do you see how these are similar triangles? What do we need to know about similar triangles? Like what? How do I know that? Well, what are similar triangles? What does that mean? Yeah, and we know that because when all the corresponding angles are equal, the things that these are both right angles. I think yeah they even say that they're at right angles. I think you assume the walls at a right angle too, and they both use this the small triangle, the big triangle both use that angle there. So naturally, and these are parallel, so these would also be the same. But just as long as you have two pairs of angles are the same, we know the third pair is also going to be the same, right? So okay. So the sides are proportional. So x over 4 equals 7.5 over 4 plus y. Cross multiply. Actually, hold on a sec. Oh, I didn't see that. That's silly of me. There's more information because I was like, how am I going to do this? Because I have two variables, one equation. The brick wall cast out 3 times that long. So it means that that's 8 then. But the whole thing is 12, right? Because it's going to it's 3 times 4, right? But that part takes. But anyway, there should be a 12 there. $12x equals 4 times 7.5. equals 30. X is 2.5. So it's 2.5 feet. However, they want inches. So we're not done yet. So I shouldn't have circled that. And it's also 4 inches to the ground too, right? So 2.5 feet, convert that to inches. Go multiply by 12, that's 30. They have to add 4 also. So the answer is 34. So that would be kind of a harder problem because you had to be very, very careful with all the information that's there and be able to process and use it correctly. So yeah, that's that one. All right. Okay, I do want you doing these. I got refrained. Let's have you guys try 5. Just see what you guys think. I'll have you guys just work it out. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Can I borrow a calculator?
Sure, you can borrow mine. Here.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about it. So you want to figure out How many gallons of gas will Max save per week by taking the expressway to and from work instead of using his current route? His current route is obviously longer, right? So current route is obviously 49 miles, right? If you do Pythagorean theorem, would you get 41? Yeah, that should be 41 if you do Pythagorean theorem correctly. So you save 8 miles. You could calculate the gallons of gas for each path, but I would just take the difference in miles. And you do this for how many days? 5 days. And also, is this a round trip? Let's read that carefully. Yes, to work and back home. So it's really, I lied. It's not 8 miles. It's 16 miles. Because 49 times 2, the long way, or 41 times 2, the short way. So you actually save 16 miles. And you're doing it for 5 days. So really you're saving 80 miles. So that adds up, right? Okay. This is why you pay a little more for the expressway, right? So 80 miles and 20 miles per gallon. So that means 20 gallons per mile. Sorry, 20 miles per gallon. That makes no sense. Sorry. So 80 miles means you need 4 gallons, right? You just use proportional reasoning. If you get 1 gallon gives you 20 miles, then 4 gallons gets you 80 miles, right? So hold on a sec. Wait, now why am I confused? Oh, you saved 4 gallons. Sorry. Yeah, duh. That's the answer. There you go. Sorry, my apologies. I totally spaced out there. So yeah, if you save 8 miles, you save 4 gallons. So, okay, let's keep moving. Let me give you some formulas here. The volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. The volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. That's going to be h. That's also going to equal 3r. I shouldn't, well, actually, I lied, 6r. Because you have 3 diameters, right? And each diameter is 2r. So h equals 3d, or h equals 6r. Okay. So you should be able to kind of figure out what to do from there. I'll let you guys work out. So your total diameter is 2.6. So then the radius is 1.3. The height is going to be 3 times the diameter, which is going to be 8.4. No, I lied. 7.8. So we work it out. And you got to take a difference because they're asking of the air inside the can around the tennis balls. So that volume is going to be volume of the cylinder minus the volume of the sphere. So it's going to be, let's see here. And I will need a calculator myself. So I'll get the desk here. 9.2. And times pi. Oh, hold on a sec. That's 41.4. 1, 2. And that was not 9.2. I forgot to multiply the pi. $28.91. Oh, it is in terms of pi. Gosh darn it. Hold on. Let's back up a little bit. So it's 9.2 pi. And now it's 13. Hold on. Now I'm really confused. 1.3 squared. Yeah, those are in terms of pi. Shoot. Okay. So let's do it one more time. 1.3 cubed times 4 divided by 3. Oh, okay. It looks like I did multiply 3.14. I didn't realize that. That's 2.93 pi. But I gotta be careful. That's 13.18 pi. If I take that difference, yeah, you get about 10.3 pi. So let's see. Okay, and then this last one here. These are similar because they said so. They say side TC to GD. So, like, for example, this could be 2, that could be 7. So, I don't know what else must also follow the same ratio. Just take a sec to look through it. Tell me what you guys think. Should be pretty obvious. You got Alex? It's D, yeah. Yeah, it can't be the first choice because those are not corresponding sides. Angles don't follow that at all. The area actually be the square of that. It would actually be 4 over 49 because the scale factor is 2/7. And area involves 2 dimensions. Volume would follow the same thing, but you cube the scale factor. So, okay, cool. Okay, outstanding. Okay, so let me go ahead and pause the recording. Okay. Oh, share screen. Here we go. All right, so now we're going to talk about ST reading. And let me read this first part. The following is adapted from the Television Public Interest, a speech delivered by Newton and Minot to TV execs in 1961. Minot was the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, which regulates television and other forms of communication in the United States. Okay. So it's kind of old, not too old. It's not like Old English, like early 20th century or 19th century, even 18th century, which is kind of hard to read. But if we look at the questions, like the main purpose, I'd probably save that one for last. Once I've read the whole thing, the author primarily seeks to convince his audience of his point by, yeah, we don't know what maybe rhetorical devices he's using. I don't know. So we'll come back to 23 at the end. But 24 does line up with 23. So we'll do those in tandem. But 25 is kind of a standalone question as well as 26 and 27. And there's line references there, right? 20 and 29 go together. 30 is standalone. And 31, that's kind of interesting. That's lines 25 to 27. So this usually follow chronological order. Didn't quite there, but for most part, they did kind of follow chronological order. So what I'm going to do is look at how many lines I got. I got 69 lines. Usually I'll try to break them to halves or thirds. Probably halves would probably make a little more sense. So line 30 is kind of a good place to take a break. So I'd read the first 3 paragraphs and tackle 25, 26, and 31. Then I would read the second half, or maybe even just the fourth paragraph, and I could totally take care of 27. But if I read the second half, I could take care of 27 and 30 for sure. And 30 is a vocab and context as well as 26. So it's good to break them up in halves because the material is kind of fresh in your head when you've read only a little bit and answer the questions right away. So, and you are going to read the whole thing. We don't want to skim, but we want to stay engaged, right? So this is what we do. Then after I take care of 27 and 30, I'll probably do 20 and 29 because those kind of go together. Not kind of, they do go together. And the evidence for 29 is, the second half of the passage anyway. Then I would, and then 28 is kind of interesting because that doesn't have line reference, but it does seem to be somewhat general. Maybe that they talked about it in a specific part of the passage, I don't know. And then I would do 22, 23, 24 last. So that's the strategies where we read a portion, answer some questions. I'd read up to line 30 and definitely tackle 3 questions, 25, 26, 31. Then I'd finish it off, or even just read the fourth paragraph. If you finish it off, you should be able to tackle 27 and 30. And then look at 28. And then, 20, 29, they go together. Sorry, I totally spaced out there. Obviously, you do 20, 29 together. Wow, can't believe I did that. And then 22, 23, 24 at the end. So let's go and try it right now. I'll pause the recording, and then we'll go through the answers after that. Darn it. Okay. Darn. Okay. Anyway, so let's look at the writing and language. And sorry for not recording for those who want to watch this recording. We did go over 22 to 31, and we did talk about how 28 and 29 were kind of tough questions. Those are C and D, because they talked about how it's okay to editorialize. It should be encouraged to state opinions or take positions, and you've got to do so fairly and responsibly. And so that's why C and D would make sense, because that's mentioned near the end of passage. And then we looked at 31, and they talked about how all these questions, like, there's no room for all this like good program for kids, but instead they're exposed to like cartoons, violence, and more violence. So it's analogous to like going to a buffet where there's a lot of unhealthy foods, but there are some healthy options. So we did talk about that, and the answers for these can be found at the end of this document. So now let's talk about writing language. Let's look at section 2 here, and we'll do the first one together, the first passage 1 through 11, and then we'll do 12 to 22 after that. So in a 1954 Life magazine article, author John Hersey expressed concern that children in the United States were disengaged from learning how to read. Among other problems, Hersey noted, the reading material available to grade schoolers had a hard time competing with television, radio, and other media for children's attention. I would leave it as is. There's no reason to, you're already using the word with. So you're saying television, radio, and other media. So yeah, I'd just leave it as is. I wouldn't change it at all. It'd be too wordy and kind of awkward, actually. And then if I keep going, one solution proposed was to make children's books more interesting, since an individual sense of wholeness follows and cannot precede a sense of accomplishment. So Wright wants to include a quotation by Hersey that supports the topic of the past, which choice best accomplishes this goal. So look at those choices. Yeah, that might be a little tricky. I'm guessing because it's talking about a Dr. Seuss novel. Probably it's going to be D, but I don't know. We'll come back to it. I don't think B or C, but I don't know. Let's see, because I don't know much about this passage yet, so it's hard for me to answer that question. The story of The Cat in the Hat's publication began when William Spalding, the director of the education division at the publishing company Hoffman Mifflin, read Hersey's article and had an idea. Okay, so you're describing who he is. And so this is what we call a non-essential clause. You didn't need that statement. That's why it's not essential. You could have just said when William Spalding read Hersey's article and had an idea. So whenever that happens, you definitely want commas before and after the non-essential clause, which it already has. So that's how you would view it. You don't want to. Some people kind of go about this randomly, but there is actually a purpose for these commas, and it's to deliberately separate the non-essential clause from the rest of the passage. So it's a non-essential clause, and and you could tell because if you get rid of it, it sounds fine. But it's nice to have because it gives a description of who William Spalding was. So we go A. Agreed that there was a need for appealing books for beginning readers. He thought he knew who should write one. He arranged to have dinner with Theodore Giesel, who wrote and illustrated children's books under the name Dr. Seuss, and issued him a challenge. Write me a story that first graders can't put down. Okay. Now you want to combine these sentences. Yeah, that sounds weird with D. And the semicolon's like a period. Anything say before and after semicolon must be a complete sentence. That would not be true by saying, and Spalding thought he knew who should write one. That you wouldn't start a sentence that way. I'd probably go A on that one. Spalding agreed that there was a need for appealing books for beginning readers, and he thought he knew who should write one. So I'd probably go A for that one. I don't know if I'd do the comma personally, but it seems like the best of all those questions. And B sounds weird also. Then if you look at 5, having known Spalding for many years and having maintained a professional relationship with him, Giesel was an experienced writer and illustrator. Seems a little wordy to me personally. Yeah, I'd probably go D because that explains why he was an experienced writer and illustrator. He won a lot of awards, not because he knew him. But he wants something that supports the fact that he was experienced. And if you've won medals and we've got nominated and published a lot of books, yeah, I would probably say D. So that's context for sure. You had to think about the context. However, this new project presented him with an obstacle. Spalding told Giesel to write his entire book using a restricted vocabulary from an elementary school list of 348 words. So there's a contrast. Yeah, and I like, however, it's perfect because even though he's experienced, there was an obstacle. So yeah, I think it's that. I'll go no change. And that's also dealing with context too when you have transition words. It's not, for example, it's not furthermore, it's not at any rate. Spalding told Giesel to write his entire book using a restricted vocabulary from an elementary school list of 348 words. Giesel started 2 stories, only to abandon them when he found that he needed to use words that were not on the list. On the verge of giving up, Giesel's story finally hit upon an image that became its basis: a cat wearing a battered stove pipe hat. I kind of like the way it is, but let me keep going. His main character established Giesel commenced the difficult task of writing a book with limited vocabulary. So let's see here. And it's an image. So I kind of like on the verge of giving up. Actually, here's the deal. Who was on the verge of giving up? Actually, this right here, I'm totally misconstruing what's happening here. This is actually going to be a misplaced modifier. Who was on the verge of giving up? Giesel, right? So whenever you have a modifier description, you got to state the thing that you're describing right after that description. And you're describing Giesel, not the story of the image or his story like as a possessive. It's got to be C, actually. Giesel finally hit upon an image that became the basis for a story. So grammatically, they all sound okay, but C is better because, or the best choice, because it has Giesel mentioned after the description or the modifier on the verge of giving up. His main character established Giesel commenced the task of writing a book with limited vocabulary. At the end of the duration, 9 months long, that seems to be really wordy. The cat and hat was complete. 9 months later. Yeah, that's good. That's an easy one. Do you want to be concise with your words? Of course, Dr. Seuss was with his books. The book was a hit. Children were entertained by its plot about the antics of a mischievous cat and is captivated by its eye cat. Should be past tense. And children were entertained by its plot about the antics of a cat and captivated by its. Yeah, because you have were is kind of taking care of entertain and captivate it. So I just delete it. It's already past tense, already covered. You can say were again, but that's wordy. They don't have that as an option. Its sales inspired another publishing company, Random House, to establish a series for early readers called Beginner Books, which featured works by Giesel and other writers. Another publishers quickly followed suit. In the years that followed, many talented writers. You don't want to. A and B are the same thing. A period and semicolon do the exact same thing. And a dash is more of a longer pause. I would go C on that one. In the years that followed, many talented writers and illustrators of children's books imitated Giesel's format of restrictive vocabulary and whimsical artwork. But perhaps the best proof of the Cat in the Hat's success, not as influence on other books, but in its limited vocabulary and appealing word choices. So restate the main theme. You want to end a kind of a high note, so I don't like A. And it's more about inspiring kids to read, so I kind of like C a lot. In the history of illustration, though, but enduring ability to delight children and engage them in learning how to read. So I totally go C. And then I can go back and do number 2. Or sorry, number 5. Number 2. Was to make children's books more interesting with drawings like those of the wonderfully imagined geniuses among children's. Yeah, I'd probably go D because he was an illustrator. Because they did say he was an accomplished writer and illustrator. And let me double check the answer just to be sure. Yeah, it's D. Yep. And let me check 4 also. I think that was A. Yep. And 5 was D. Yep. Okay, cool. So that's the approach. So I'm going to have you guys now try the second passage, and then we'll talk about it. So you should take about 8 minutes to be too long, and then we'll talk about it. There we go. Okay, it didn't work last time. Okay. All right. Okay. The answers for these are right here. 12 through 22. Okay. Oh, you can't see my screen. It's paused. Let's do that. There we go. Let me zoom in because that's kind of hard to read. You guys do have the answer key also. I gave it to you guys, but yeah, so it's DA, DC, BBA, DB, CB. How'd it go? Good. Did you guys miss any? No? Any miss any?
17.
Let's take a look at 17. Yeah, that's kind of weird when it's a word choice thing. Some studies have also found students who do community service are more likely to volunteer as adults, and thus, obviously, you're going to say impact society positively over the course of many years. So you know it's students, so it's got to be plural. So it's not D, and C is going to be a run-on, a fragment. Affect, I think, means that it means the influence. Effect is to bring about like change, to effect a change. But they got B because you want to influence it. So to influence society, that's what affect means. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. Usually effect tends to be used more as a noun anyway, but it could be used as a verb too. It's kind of a strange one. Yeah, but it's the influence. So yeah. Okay, cool. That kind of covers pretty much all I wanted to cover for today. Definitely did some math practice of the advanced math problems. We did some reading practice, did some writing practice. What I'd like you guys to do, and I believe I'll be available. Are you guys here next week? And I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah.